You're listening to Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. We're coming to you from the unceded traditional territory of the Salish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. I'm Bernadine Fox, and this is Both Sides Now. You're listening to Both Sides Now on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm Bernadine Fox, and today I get the pleasure of speaking with my old friend, Shari Ulrich, who, if you have been listening to the show, you know sings us in and out of this program every week. Shari's a music writer, you're a songwriter, and you've been a musician for some time. Do you want to fill that in a little bit more?
Sometime, like exactly how some that time is?
I don't know.
Well, I started in 1973, so everybody can do their math. We were
Some of
just
us can't do math.
Okay, well, that would be close to 50 years. Next year it will be 50 years. So I'll have to do something really big next year to commemorate that.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. So I think I've started to figure it out. And I feel like I'm just getting started, actually.
Doing something for 50 years to me is phenomenal. I don't think I've ever done anything for, I haven't done anything
Well, you're not
other
old
than
enough
breathe
to.
in and out for 50 years. But no, but I tend to change what I'm doing up every once in a while because I like doing that. So I'm always
Well,
impressed by people who have hung in there.
There are a lot of different things that have woven their way into that keep it very interesting,
Oh, cool.
that are tangentially related. So it's had many offshoots into different kinds of composing and different kinds of performing, and so it's always been interesting and challenging and never ever boring. I've never thought of doing anything else. I mean, I do lots of other things, but yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So today I want to talk about a post you put on Facebook prior to Christmas holidays. And my Christmas holidays were canceled because pretty sure I had COVID. So, and then my New Year's was canceled. So Ace and I spent a very introverted Christmas together. I still have Christmas gifts I haven't been able to give my grandkids yet because I haven't been able to see them yet. So, but there are lots of people out there who grappled with this very topic. What do I do at Christmas? And who do I do it with? And how do I not invite people? And. So you were talking about that. They had this weird sort of zone of dramatically increased vulnerability to exposure. That's what you talked about. And certainly Omicron has done that to us.
Yes, exactly. And it has, every Christmas, we used to just be able to say last Christmas. Every Christmas it changes. So the first COVID Christmas, there wasn't much debate about whether or not it was okay to be together. Then when vaccines came in, then we had family members who weren't getting vaccinated. And that brought a whole level of alienation and frustration and separation and anger and all sorts of things in. And then the increased sense of vulnerability that we all have, even though we're completely done with so many restrictions and so much isolation. So we had this period where we were, okay, we're on the other side of this and we get to see our loved ones and we get to be together and now it's just a mishmash.
Yeah.
But yes, I did feel like I mean, my family member who isn't vaccinated is a long way away. She's in Oregon. Although I discovered after, I can't remember if it was just before or after I wrote that post, that in fact she and her husband and their two eldest children have been vaccinated.
Oh, good.
She didn't advised me of that. She said, "Well, if it's important to you, if you must know, we have been vaccinated." And I thought, "Well, of course it's important to me." So I could have been spared the last whoever knows how long of feeling angry with her and frustrated with her.
Right.
And she's the daughter of my brother who died during COVID,
Mm.
not of COVID, but
Oh
last
dear.
April. And I've always been very close to her, so it was very conflicting and very
Yes.
confusing.
Yes. I'm sorry about your brother. I did not know that. And having
Yeah,
anybody die in amongst COVID means also, again, you can't travel or have a funeral or all of those
exactly.
things. And so it changes some really sort of deep rooted traditions that we've all had, that we've all sort of depended on to process and, even to gather, even though a funeral is about death, we do get to gather and we get to
Oh,
check in with each other and see how people are doing.
exactly.
And
And that's exactly why this came up because she said, "I want to be able to gather to honor my father's life." And they had a bit of a complicated relationship. So that kind of mixed in with the emotions of why aren't we gathering to celebrate his life? This is my father.
right,
And that's when I had to say, well, the truth is we don't feel comfortable gathering with your family because they're not vaccinated.
right,
So that's how this all unfolded. And I realized that her complicated feelings about her brother, or sorry, her father, and our complicated feelings about our brother, we're getting all mixed up in the complicated feelings about not feeling safe to gather
right.
and have that very important part of the ritual of losing someone.
Yeah, the
It's
grief,
so
loss.
important.
It is,
Yes.
absolutely is. And so it all sort of, all that other stuff overshadowed your grief even.
Yes, and it's very challenging to grieve properly without being able to come together.
Yeah.
And challenging to have someone die and have nothing happened. It's
Yes.
just feels so wrong and odd and I mean there are all sorts of strange things get heaped into this weird soup that we've been in for the last couple of years, but that really came to the forefront for me, and it also coincided with an incident where I had a friend stop by over Christmas, and my family members who were with me were not comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so my feelings about the people who were there and my feelings about my dearest friend who wanted to stop in for tea were all mixed in there as
Right.
well. So that's all precipitated the post of let's just acknowledge how
It
complicated
is.
this is
It is.
and give each other a bit of a break, give ourselves a break, see if we can just calm the hell down a little bit and just try and wait it out.
Yeah, and I mean, Christmas can be difficult enough to begin with. Never mind all this other. I mean, you're talking about Christmas
Exactly.
and funerals complicated by this other huge thing that, I mean, having your friend come by, that may have not been a problem. Probably wouldn't have been a problem prior to this.
Oh
But
God,
then
no.
it then makes a commentary on your relationship with that person because it impacts on how you feel about her walking in your house. And it's
Well, I tend to, everybody has different sensibilities about this, so I was perfectly thrilled to see her and didn't feel it as a threat.
right,
But my other family members did,
right.
and I wanted to see her.
Yeah, of course you did. I want to see you. I haven't seen you in a very long time.
Oh God, so long. I don't know. Well, I guess everything's at least 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
we in Vancouver Co-op Radio here, we are now basically running this radio program out of our homes. So I don't know
yeah.
how many programmers there are. There's probably at least 50 people doing what I'm doing, recording in their homes
Mhm.
and editing and uploading from here so that this radio station stays on air. So,
Yeah.
and it's hard to know that it'll be 2 years in a month and a half or so.
Yep.
So
Nobody anticipated that.
no, no, I did not. I tried going on the website, the Canada website, trying to, get the regulations and the rules and the ideas of how to help you figure out how to do gatherings in your house, and there was all these questionnaires and these surveys and this and that, and I was just like, oh my God. So yeah, no help on the personal sort
No.
of heartfelt, how do I do this thing. I have a friend who's not vaccinated, will not be vaccinated, and I'm kind of mad at her at the moment because she said a very snarky comment to my child about vaccinations and stuff. And I find that, I'm really do believe that people have the right to make choices about what they do. And some people perhaps shouldn't be vaccinated because of their own medical issues. And, I'm glad that I get to be vaccinated and that's my choice. But this woman has become increasingly fanatical, and her friends, about this. And they say kind of
Hmm.
the same thing. You're going to die. One of my grandkids, elementary school, grade 3, had one of her schoolmates in her class, grade 3, so 8 years old, come and say the same thing. You're going to die. There's no such thing as COVID. It's just a hoax. All this stuff. And I find that harder because there's no critical. If I could just have a discussion, that would be fine. I'd be happy to have a discussion about it. But the fanaticism that's happening, I find really
Yeah.
scary. Actually, I find it
Yeah.
scary.
I wonder sometimes, of course, this is just my dime store analysis of the state of the world, that somehow people are searching for some sort of internal galvanizing of their place or their opinions or their identity, and that somehow this has given a whole segment of the population something to latch onto with fervor. I mean, it would be so wonderful if it was saving the planet from ourselves instead.
Feeding
But
people.
yeah, yeah, all
Yeah.
all manner of things. But
Right.
I think that there's a lot of anxiety, that unanalyzed anxiety
Mm,
going on, that drives why people gravitate towards this sort of thing, and feeling that they are being too controlled and that they need to push against, quote, the man.
right.
It's sort of the 60s coming around again.
Right.
And it's all, to my mind, all very misplaced. And I do find, and this is one of the elements in my post, is that I tend to be a fairly forgiving person.
Mm.
And
Yes,
I
that
I
is true
bel
about you.
Aw, I believe in really putting yourself in someone else's position and understanding how they come to feel the way that they do,
Mhm.
and that sort of thing. And I'm finding myself so unforgiving over
Mm,
this issue, and impatient and angry, and all those
mm,
things that, negative emotions that I try and keep at bay. So I'm not even interested in having the conversation. When you say I'm happy to, I admire you for that, because I just have no patience for it. And that surprises me, because
mm,
here I am, someone who feels that well, I want to see the other side, and I want to see the big picture and all of that. And I don't even want to allow myself to, somehow,
mm.
because I just feel so strongly that this is indicative of, we had this wonderful opportunity, and to
Yes.
my mind, to come together as an entire planet
Yes.
to help fix something, to get on the same page, to fix a problem that was threatening all of us. And we
And
didn't
still
do it.
is.
And still is.
We still haven't come to the solution at this point because I mean, I got Omicron. I'm double vaxxed.
Yeah.
So it's still changing. It's still mutating, and we don't know what comes after this. So we just have to take a little break. So don't go
Okay.
away, folks. But we're going to
Okay.
come right back at this and talk some more with Shari. So don't go away.
Created by your First Nations Health Managers Association, we introduce InfoPoint, a convenient and accessible helpful desk for First Nations health managers looking for credible sources of information on COVID-19. Don't have time to dig? Talk to a real person now at 1-855-446-2719 or email infopoint@fnhma.ca. Indigenous Health Today is another resource of information by region at ihtoday.ca.
Good night, my beautiful world. It sure was the greatest of rides. Well, it's not your diamonds or your pearls that make it so hard to say goodbye. Arriving in the age of fall, I loved you the moment we met. Your beauty on me never lost, and I haven't seen the half of you yet. You're hanging in longer than some thought you would, and no one would say you didn't try. May tomorrow this love be enough. Good night, beautiful world. Good night. Well, I fear we've made a mess of things. I don't know how we lost our way. With all your endless miracles, I hope that they will hold sway. Never give up, never give in, thick and thin. You've been in for the fight. May tomorrow this love be enough. Good night, beautiful world. I'm so sorry that we've been so cruel to you, for our selfish ways, so badly behaved. Still so wrong after all you've been through, my beautiful, beautiful world.
listening to Both Sides Now on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm Bernadine Fox, and I'm chatting with Shari Ulrich about COVID and families and gatherings and what are we doing? What are we doing? So I was saying that, we don't know really. I mean, this variant, I think the officials out there are hoping that it'll spread like wildfire and, everybody will get it, which I could tell you in my life, it feels like everybody around me, even though I haven't had any contact with them, are getting it. It's like, wasn't like before where you kind of heard about somebody, who was the wife of a friend of a
Yeah,
friend,
yeah.
it now is sort of right in your face all the time. So that is overwhelming to me because as much as I went through it and feel like, it is milder certainly than what people were talking about with COVID. I don't think we're at the end of this. Where does it mutate to next? Right. So,
Exactly.
and all the way along in this 2 years, this has been this sort of invisible monster, that we're not quite sure. And we're hoping the mask works. We're hoping social distancing works. And now none of that is working as far as I can tell. I mean, I don't know where I got it from. I go out with a mask, I social distance, I only go
Yeah,
grocery
yeah.
shopping, you know. So where?
Well, again, taking a step back in the much bigger picture, for me, it kind of underscores our arrogance as a species, that we think that we can control everything. We think that we have the right to eschew what science says might help this end sooner. All of those things that we're just not very good at seeing our place
Mm-hmm.
in just being another organism here on this
Mm-hmm.
planet. And we're
Yes.
not the boss.
Yeah.
That's
No,
all
we're
there
not
is
the
to it.
boss. And you're right. We do come to life with that kind of assumption that we are on the top of the food chain and we are in control. And the truth
Yeah.
is, this certainly has showed us that we're not in
I'm
control.
I'm trying to find a sweet spot with it right now,
Hmm.
which is I'm triple vaxxed. I'm also a senior, so technically I'm vulnerable. I don't feel so vulnerable. I guess just like anybody who doesn't think they need to be vaccinated probably doesn't feel very vulnerable either. Um, but it doesn't feel like it carries the quite as serious a risk as a triple vax person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I am obviously it's not life as usual like it was 3 years ago, but I do go into a store. I'm always masked, of course. But I'm trying to find that sweet spot with being cautious, being smart, but also enjoying my life.
Right.
And I think that's important to feel some sense of control of, okay, what is it in your realm of your perception of your vulnerability that you can do to for your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Going outside is huge. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm lucky that I live near nature, so
Yeah.
going outside. Put on your stabilizers on your shoes so that you can walk in the snow and the ice and not fall down and go.
Yes.
Um, and as a performer, it's a really tricky period because I I'm always go by the regulations, of course, and I have shows coming up in Victoria, in
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver Island, and we're keeping them to 50%, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're allowed to happen, but there's a certain sense because the variant's so contagious, there's a certain sense of, oh, do I want to be responsible for creating a situation for people to be in the same room that could end up being a super spreader? Oh my
Right.
God, what's my place here? And also feeling like, well, I'm doing this because people need music and we need each
Oh, we
other
do.
and all of that human stuff that I know I can help facilitate and bring music to them and bring laughter and all of that. So it's quite an ethical quandary that I'm in the middle of. I mean, right now I'm forging ahead as if this is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I know some of my peers are saying, nope, that's not what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Yeah, it's an
It is hard,
interesting.
and that is a quandary. And you're right. We need music. We need art. We need music. These are things that help us cope with the very
Yeah,
thing that we're trying to cope with. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, and then having that quandary, am I creating a dangerous place?
And then, of course, there's the personal responsibility that everybody has to do what they are comfortable with.
Right.
It's not like I'm forcing anybody to come.
No,
And
no.
I do try and share music in many other ways that don't involve gathering. Um, yeah.
Imagine that you've also found through this that your gigs are down because of it. I mean,
Oh,
you've
yeah.
continued to produce music and be out there on some level, but um, I stopped drawing. That was one of the things that happened for me. Is all my classes that were on the community level were just canceled, and I really missed that. I got a lot. I was at that point that I realized how much I got out of teaching. And it wasn't just a
Uh,
paycheck, it was the interactions with people and, helping somebody figure out what they were doing wrong, or, being able to help somebody feel better about their drawing so that they would continue and undo some of the harm that had been done to them from before. All of those things meant something to me. Um,
yes,
and just the
absolutely.
mask, just having to wear a mask. I mean, I would be walking around going, oh God, I know that person, but I couldn't recognize that person,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I
because
miss
of the
faces so
mask. Oh
much.
yeah. And the
Oh,
smile, we can't smile at people. I'm trying to figure out how to smile with my eyes, and it's just not the same.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I worry about the kids that are growing up over this last
Me
2 years in
too. Me
formative
too.
times, that they don't have faces to really bounce off of.
Yeah, yeah. It's very foreign and very unnatural, and again, that's circling around to the low grade anxiety that it produces. I notice that when I'm out in the world and procuring things, and I just can't wait to rip my mask off when I
Yes.
go outside. Other times I forget and I think, oh, my face is warmer. But it's a claustrophobia, I
Yes.
think, that it's in our lives, both being indoors a lot more than we would otherwise, being isolated more than we usually are, and yeah, I miss people's faces so
Yeah.
much.
It's
And I miss showing them mine. I miss smiling at them.
well, even all, we did a show a little while ago, well, actually quite a while ago now, because it's been 2 years, but about how COVID, impacts loneliness, and how how I don't know about you, but when I go outside and I'm around people, normally I'd be interacting with everybody I know and saying hi and how are you doing, and maybe giving a
Yes.
hug and all of that stuff, that every little bit of it boosts your dopamine. And if you're not getting those little boosts of dopamine throughout your day or your week, it's going to drag you down until you're feeling quite wretched because you don't have that feel good enzyme going through your body. So,
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of reaching out through Zoom that I've been doing
mhm.
over this time. That's unusual. I mean, just sorry, Julie is reacting to the cute picture that I sent her.
Oh, that's nice.
Um, Stop it. Stop talking to me, Julia.
Is she
I
chatting with you?
She's chatting with me, and I can't stop to tell her. She'll figure it out, I suppose. Um, I have cousins that are all over the world that we've been Zooming together every Friday since my brother was sick.
Right.
So 2 years now, every Friday,
Wow.
and they're all very intelligent and um, wise and funny, and some of them I had never even met. And so it's been like I realize how much I look forward to that. And there was a group
Mhm.
of my peers, um, Stephen Fearing and Kara Luft and Susan Crowe and Lynn Miles and James Keelahan, and we were meeting regularly once a week just to support each other. And so
Right.
that I think we're also being more this is the Pollyanna in me, more proactive about reaching out and finding ways to see each other's faces
Yes.
and make each other laugh and have that company.
Yeah.
I'm kind of unique in that I love my solitude.
Mm.
So for me, it's been just fine.
Hmm.
This is my happy place. But there's no doubt, like when I do go out in the world, I always make a point of having a positive exchange with the strangers in stores and clerks
Yes.
and anybody that I come across.
Yeah.
So I still do that, and I do find that there's an extra hunger from people to have that positive exchange.
Hmm.
So, and I think people are probably grumpier and a little darker than they usually are. So the people who are in the service industry and dealing with people out in the world are, I'm finding, are particularly grateful
Right.
to have a positive exchange and have that warmth come from someone. And so I enjoy being able to give that to them.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And family, how has it been for family in terms of not being able to see folks? I think if I'm right, your immediate family is here, but
Well,
you have family in the United States as well, right?
yes, I have a son, the son that I gave up for adoption that I found 14 years ago now.
Right.
He and his wife and daughter have not been able to come up. Um, my sister, my niece, yeah, all my family is in the
Hmm.
US. That my immediate family that I created, like
Yes.
Julia and James are nearby in North Van, so that's been wonderful. There was certainly in the beginning we were not able to see each other.
Right.
And boy, I've definitely milked them for every hug I can get,
Yes.
because that's what I miss the most
Oh, yeah,
is hugging.
absolutely.
So anybody that I feel safe with, which is everybody that I see regularly,
Hmm.
I'm just really happy to get and give a hug.
Your bubble is about hugs.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely. So
Yes.
Julie and James have been very attentive and sweet, and they're always lovely to see and visit and talk to.
Oh, that's cool. That is
Um,
cool.
and that's, yeah, and then a couple of friends on Bowen.
So when you go out and then so you're about to do a show and you're doing it at 50%,
Hmm.
um, are people having to show their vaccination records when they walk
Oh,
in?
yes.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yes, that was the big game changer, and I was very grateful that they instituted that so that people could feel safe coming
Right.
to shows.
Right.
And that's what allowed us to be able to start performing live again.
Right.
And it'd be nice if it was full houses, but I'm happy to at least be able to play to 50% of a house. And it's unfortunate that I can't see them smile when I say something funny,
I know.
but
You can
I'm
hear them
getting
laugh.
used to it.
Yes.
Pardon? Yeah,
You can
because of the
hear them
mask.
laugh. No, but
I
you
can
can
hear
hear
them
them
laugh.
laugh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I can. It's muffled, but I can hear them.
Yes. It is
But
muffled.
it's still superior to doing a concert on Zoom. Even
Yes.
though on Zoom I can see their faces or live streaming where you don't see people's faces.
Hmm.
Um, what the performers, my friends who perform, I was talking to Lynn Miles about this last night because I attended one of her shows. Um, when it's hard to put into words, but it ends up feeling like it's full on energy output the whole time, and
Right.
you realize how much energy you do put out because normally in a live concert it's coming back and
Yes.
there's a circle that happens. It's like the
Yes.
wave against the shoreline.
Yeah.
It goes up and comes back.
Yeah.
And even though even on Zoom I can see them smiling, it's just not the same. Like that energy of art is something that has to happen in your presence, I think.
Yeah, it is an elusive thing, and it's kind of what I was talking about in terms of teaching. You have it's that energy that comes back. It's the shared joke. It's that
Yeah.
happens in the same space, and it's one of the reasons I've really sort of reluctantly, am only now thinking of going to doing an online class because I'm not sure it's going to be the same. I know it's not going to be the same. It's
Not
just
going to be
not
the
going to be the
same. I mean,
same.
we're very lucky to have that option.
Yes.
Um, but I just had to come to terms with that, and also to forgive myself for being exhausted at the end of an online concert
Yeah, no kidding.
because it's all output.
Right.
And I still will do it because I appreciate that people are, I mean, I felt it when I watched Lynn's concert last night. I know so many of her songs, and it just felt so good to be there as much as I could be,
Hmm.
with her in her apartment, and her wonderful sense of humor and
Hmm.
her warmth and her appreciation, and there were many, many positive things about
Right.
it. But
Right.
it's not how we're meant to be sharing
No,
music.
no,
That's all
no,
there is to it.
no, that's true. We need to take another little break, but don't go away, folks. We're going to come back and talk some more with Shari Ulrich.
The Canadian Independent Venue Coalition has been formed by local club owners to address the brutal financial effect of COVID-19 on live music spaces. Most of the government's arts support has gone to nonprofit organizations, with small independent venues falling through the cracks. These venues are in very real danger of closing for good. The CIVC encourage you to contact your local and federal officials, asking that they address this problem more comprehensively. You could also get in touch with your favorite venues to see how you might help them specifically. For more information on other ways you might help, visit supportcanadianvenues.ca. That's supportcanadianvenues.ca.
I look in the mirror and wonder who's looking back. She looks familiar, but I'm not as old as that face that is peering, questioning how this could be. Once was a time, oh, that I was invincible. Soon by and by, I know I'll be invisible. But right now I'm smiling. Right here's where I wanna be. All I've lived and breathed is still inside of me, and with each line on my face, there's a big long life to trace that I'm not gonna hide. I'll wear them all with pride. These round my lips are from kissing and whistling, blowing out candles, and all of that wishing, the worry that those I hold dear are gonna be okay. Yes, there's a few from my losses and old regrets. Times I was hurtful and thoughtless with what I said, but most you notice are from life making me smile. All I used to be is still inside of me, and with each line on my face is a long story we can trace. A little tough and a little wild, I earned
Do you feel unsafe in your home?
You are not alone.
Transition houses offer free support and shelter for women and children.
We are here for you.
We are here for you.
We are here for you.
Make the call.
1-800-VICTIM-LINK.
1-800-563-0808.
bcsth.ca.
So I just want to go into talking about what you have been doing since you've been hunkered down and how you've taken advantage of this time and what we can expect and what's on the horizon and how you're going to blast out once we can blast out. So
it's funny because it's been so long. I think, okay, now can I remember what I did at the beginning of all this? Well, like so many people at the beginning of it all, I reorganized my house and cleaned out closets, which now I've circled around to needing to do it again. And I would love to say that I've written 2 or 3 albums and finished my autobiography and all of those creative things that you think, God, if only I had the time. Well, here I had the time, and still somehow I felt like I didn't have enough time.
I felt a little frozen. I felt the same thing. I thought, well, I can take, 3 months. I can be at home. I can write that next book that I was going to write, and I could, do all kinds of stuff. But I just felt like I felt a little shocky, I think. The whole thing of walking into a store and seeing empty shelves and everybody skirting around and being afraid of it was frightening to me. It really was.
There was a lot of anxiety involved. I personally felt a huge amount of relief unexpectedly because I didn't realize that I had never stopped before. I had never stopped moving, booking, planning, scheming, writing, recording, that wheel that I've been on for 50 years. I had never said, okay, I'm going to take 3 months or 6 months or 2 years and stop doing that. That just never ever occurred to me. I never felt the desire to, but when it did stop, I really relished it. It just felt so good and restorative. But I have a gene in me that says that, well, that's not okay to just not do what you do. So I definitely have dribbled away at some writing, and I have chipped away at my autobiography, which was largely inspired by my brother's wife, my sister-in-law,
Oh, interesting.
who connected. She's a professor of creative nonfiction, and we connected very deeply over what I was writing and working on, and so that really it gave me a boot. But I'm still not setting aside that 2 hours or 4 hours or 15 minutes or something every single day to work on that damn book.
I don't know. I think
God,
autobiographies
so
are
boring.
much harder than we imagine before we start.
Yes.
And then you get in it, and you're left
It's
with
overwhelming.
it is, because every story you're going, okay, whose story is this? Can I say this story, or can I say this about this person? And if I tell the truth, who's going to hate me?
I know.
Just like,
I
my
know.
God,
Well, I think I figured out that I just have to not say anything disparaging about anybody. That I'll just tell the parts of the story that I think might be valuable for someone to hear. Because I don't think I could live with myself saying something unless they really deserved it. And there isn't anybody in my life who I would say that about.
Right. There you go. Yay. What a good life you've made. Do you think that COVID changed you?
Oh, gosh. I guess that's such a good question. I mean, I think it has changed everybody, not necessarily for the better. I think, I mean, I suspect when and if it's ever over, I'm going to have a better perspective on what kind of permanent change there might be. I certainly do think that having stopped was quite life-changing in a way, because I didn't ever think of that as an option. and I didn't think I'd enjoy it so much. So if anything stops me, I feel like, oh, well, that's okay. Um, but otherwise, like, I think I've been very intentionally trying to keep an eye on keeping anxiety at bay,
Hmm.
because it would be so easy for it to creep in. It's
Yes.
one reason why I never ever watch apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic movies and
Right.
things, where even some that are coming out now that are highly rated. It's like I need to be in denial to some degree in order to enjoy life, which is probably
Absolutely.
how
We all,
mankind got into this problem in the first
yeah,
place.
that's
But
how mothers have every baby. You're in denial, at
yes,
least the first
yes.
one, about what that's going to mean.
Yes.
But not that
And
we
you
don't
can't
love
dwell
motherhood.
on you can't dwell on, oh my God, well, how would it would be so horrible if they died. I mean, as soon
Yes.
as you have something that precious, then
Yeah.
you worry about something happening to
Oh,
them.
yeah.
And I just, again, back to the sweet spot of trying to find that place where I can be a conscious person
Hmm.
and be a considerate person, um, and be aware of what's going on in the world, but just enough to not be ignorant, but not so much that I live in a state of anxiety, because that's not a very nice place to be.
No, my anxiety has increased 100-fold since COVID started, and
Yeah, yeah.
so I
Most
haven't
people's
I
has.
haven't managed to cope with it as well as you,
You
clearly.
haven't found the sweet spot yet?
No, I'm still mired and,
Very sour spot.
trying to breathe. Um,
Yeah.
I do feel that COVID changed me, though, and like you, I had to stop running around, and I had to, and doing that made other things come into focus. And so I feel like, as
Ah.
it started opening up in September, and I could do my drawing class and I could do other things, and I started realizing I don't really like some of those things that I was doing before, right?
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
want to go
Yeah.
back to that, and so it's really sort of called, I guess, some of the things that I'm going to be doing in the future just because of
Right.
that.
But that's
So
good.
it is
I
good.
think that's good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And thank
There-
God there are things that are positive that are coming out of this for us. I tried to go back into 1918 to see what happened to the population, but of course there wasn't any social media back then, and I don't think anybody was doing research on how it impacted the population, the flu that happened
No.
then.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do know that at this point they're talking about how the degree to which it's causing depression and anxiety and all
Yeah.
these things. Um, so it
Yeah.
is something that we
I
all have to deal with.
I think it would be impossible to compare because of how different the world is. And it's hard to be negative about too much screen time, or like, we just need to find connection where we can and find meaning where we can, and try not to be too focused on what we find online, and just, well, I'm a huge believer in getting out into nature. But
Hmm.
it really does make a huge difference to your mental health,
It does.
and it
It
has
does.
to
It's
be
true.
part of our lives every single day.
Absolutely. I agree. And I do know a lot of people who focused on going and forest bathing in this time frame and would be right there with you saying, absolutely, this is a necessary thing to
Yeah,
do. So,
yeah.
well, thank you, Shari. That was a wonderful conversation. So glad we got to catch up on the show.
So glad. It was
Yeah.
lovely. Thanks
Yeah.
for
And
asking me.
I'm glad to hear you and David and his wife and Julia and her partner are all doing well. That's good.
Yes, everyone's
That's
thriving.
that's good. And I guess we see what happens where we end up. They're saying that we will probably all have COVID by June. Um, and so I
Whee!
guess we find out from then. Do we have another variant come and hit us again? And Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I certainly would hope that the people who are holding out and not getting vaccinated understand that that's what allows the whatever variant to be not as virulent, not as
Hmm.
virulent a variant. So
Yeah.
that would help too.
I've actually gotten to the point where I'm a little concerned about calling certain people who were unvaxxed and refused to get vaxxed. And like I said, I think people do have a right to make their own choices. We live in a free country, and as much as I don't agree with it, I still will honor that. But I get afraid. Do I call them? Are they sick? Are they dying? Are they in the hospital now? Like, it's really hard to
Yeah.
know what to do. And if they get sick, how compassionate am I going to be? I don't know. At that point, I really don't know.
It has brought up for me a whole concept about freedom. And yes, we do have the freedom to choose. But I think our sense of what that freedom means has gotten rather warped in our society.
Maybe. Yeah.
And I think well, it would be very unpopular to say I don't think we should have a freedom of choice about this. But of course, that's not the way we roll. So,
Yeah. I could go there so long as it could end just with that. But my fear is that that will mean other freedoms will get curtailed when it's considered important by somebody
for
who may
the,
not hold the same values as I. So,
well, yes, there is that.
yeah. Anyway, thank you,
All
Shari.
right.
I've
It
so
was lovely
enjoyed
to
this.
talk to you. Yes.
And you
Onward
take
ho.
care. And I can't wait to hear more of your music. And
I can't wait to share more of my music,
yes, that's good. Okay.
create more. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Shari.
Bye.
Okay.
Mwah.
Thank you.
There's a rising sun on an empty bed. It seems you couldn't sleep, I guess. That worried heart, that busy head, the words we never Love is what the neighbors bring. It lifts us up and it makes me sing. Love is what tomorrow brings. Love is everything. Love is what you mean to me. Oh, love is everything. Oh, love is everything. Oh, love is everything. Oh, love is everything. Ooh, love is everything. Love is everything. Love is everything. Oh, love is everything.
You're listening to Both Sides Now on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm Bernadine Fox, and that's our show. My thanks goes out to Shari Ulrich, a good, dear old friend of mine who took the time to sit and chat with me today about COVID and family gatherings and how it's all impacting on us. But not only that, it's her music that has been throughout this entire show and will now sing us out of this show. But again, also, my thanks goes out to all of you for taking the time to join us today. Stay safe out there. If you have questions or feedback about this program or want to share your story or have something to say to us, we want to hear from you. You can reach us by email, bothsidesnow@coopradio.org, or via Twitter @bothsidesnowbc. This is Bernadine Fox. We'll be back next week. Until then.
I can't seem to find my way under or over or through. Just when I'm ready to give up the fight, there you are when we turn out the lights. And it's alright, it's alright. Don't you worry, it'll be alright. Why do I always believe it when you tell me everything's gonna be alright? Yeah. Why don't I wonder how you know? Well, surely you don't have all of the facts. You could be just making it up. Why don't I ever think of that? It's some kind of magic in the words that you breathe, saying, baby, take it from me. It's alright, it's alright. Don't you worry, it'll be alright. Why do I always believe it when you tell me everything's gonna be alright? Everything's gonna be alright. With anyone else, it's such a cliche, just words people say to be nice. Or somehow in